Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we are tackling websites, specifically how to choose the right one for your business. Because let's be real, it can feel like a total jungle out there.
It really can be overwhelming.
This ultimate guide we've got our hands on though. It's like our machete to hack through all the confusion.
It is. It's a really fantastic resource.
Although I have to say, there's something kind of meta about getting website advice from an article on, well, a website.
Right. A little ironic.
But hey, it's the info that counts, right?
Yeah.
And this guide is jam-packed with it.
It really is. And one of the things I appreciate most is how it cuts right to the chase. Your business needs come first. It seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people get caught up in all the bells and whistles of website design before figuring out what they actually need the website to do.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's like trying to build a house without a blueprint. You end up with a wonky door or a bathroom in the kitchen.
Exactly. This guide even makes that analogy. Right off the bat, it asks, do you need an online store, or is appointment booking more your style? That's such a simple but powerful question. A small business owner, maybe someone like a consultant, needs a website that makes it super easy for clients to book their services. But if you're selling handmade jewelry or vintage clothes,
You need a completely different setup. One that can handle product listings, inventory, shipping, the whole shebang.
exactly. And that leads perfectly into the guy's rundown of must-have website features. There's a whole list, but the one that always stands out to me, especially in today's online world, is SEO.
Ooh, SEO, yes. Search engine optimization. I feel like that's one of those terms people hear thrown around a lot, but it can seem a bit mysterious, like a secret code or something.
It kind of is a secret code in a way. But it's a code worth cracking because it's the key to getting your website seen by the right people.
Okay, so break it down for us. What does optimizing for search engines actually mean?
In the simplest terms, it's about making sure your website pops up when people search for things related to your business. Let's say you're a vintage clothing store. You want to make sure that when someone types vintage clothing or retro fashion into Google,
Your store pops up.
exactly, and that's where keywords come in. These are the words and phrases people type into search engines.
So if I'm a dog groomer, I want to make sure dog grooming is all over my website, right?
Well, not exactly all over. We don't want to go overboard and turn off Google. It's more about strategically using those keywords throughout your website's content. It's a bit of an art, actually, but the main idea is to signal to Google what your website is about, so it knows to show your site to the right people.
It's like you're speaking Google's language.
Precisely. You've got to learn the lingo. And once you've got a handle on SEO, that can really influence your choice of website platform too, because there are a ton of options out there.
So many options. It's overwhelming. You've got WordPress, which seems to be the go-to for, like, everyone.
It's definitely popular, and for good reason. It's super flexible. You can customize it like crazy.
But it also seems a bit more, like, hands-on.
It can be, yeah. It definitely has a steeper learning curve than some of the other options out there. If you're not tech savvy, it can feel a bit daunting. Then you've got Shopify, which is like the holy grail for e-commerce.
If you're selling anything online, Shopify seems to be the way to go.
It's definitely a powerhouse. It's got all the features you need for online stores, and it integrates with everything. But of course, that comes at a price. It can be a bit pricier than some of the other options.
Okay, so Shopify for the serious sellers. What about Wix? I feel like I hear a lot about Wix being super user-friendly.
Absolutely. Wix is great if you're just starting out or if you're not super techy. It's got a drag and drop interface, tons of templates to choose from.
It's like the Apple product of website builders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Super intuitive, very design focused, but that ease of use can sometimes come at the expense of flexibility.
Okay, so maybe not ideal if you need something super customized. What about Squarespace? They've got those gorgeous templates.
Squarespace is definitely known for its aesthetics. If you want a website that looks like $1 million without having to hire a fancy designer, Squarespace is a great option.
But what about the functionality? Is it all style over substance?
Not at all. It's actually got a lot to offer in terms of features, especially if you're a creative entrepreneur or small business owner. Blogging, e-commerce, email marketing, you name it. It's just that those stunning templates are what they're most known for.
So many options. How's someone supposed to choose?
That's the $1 million question. And that's where this guide really shines. It helps you weigh the pros and cons of each platform based on your unique needs and priorities. But one thing's for sure, we can't talk about choosing a website platform without addressing the elephant in the room.
The cost.
The cost.
It's the dreaded B word, right? Budgeting.
Yeah.
It's not the most glamorous part of building a website, but it's kind of important.
Essential, really. I mean, you wouldn't start building a house without a budget, would you?
Okay, good point.
Mm.
So where do we even begin?
Well, this guide does a fantastic job of breaking it down into manageable chunks. It talks about upfront costs like registering your domain name, which is like your website's address.
Where I got to have a kitschy address.
Exactly. And then there are usually setup fees for certain platforms, especially for using a premium template or something.
Makes sense. And then, of course, the ongoing costs, like hosting.
Right. Hosting is essentially renting space for your website on a server.
It's like paying rent for your website's apartment online.
Exactly. And some platforms include hosting in their monthly fee, while others charge separately. Then you've got website maintenance.
Because websites, much like gardens, don't just magically maintain themselves, do they?
Sadly, they do not. You've got to keep those weeds in check.
So true. Okay, so we've got our upfront costs, our monthly fees. Anything else lurking in the shadows that we need to budget for?
Yes. The dreaded hidden fees. This is where things can get a little tricky.
Ooh, hidden fees. Nobody likes a surprise bill.
Nobody. So it's essential to read the fine print when you're comparing pricing plans.
Like, seriously read it. Or is it one of those things where you just click agree and hope for the best?
Definitely read it. Pay close attention to things like transaction fees, especially if you're running an e-commerce site. Some platforms take a cut of every sale.
Oh, wow, yeah. That could really eat into your profits.
It definitely can. And then there are things like storage and bandwidth limits. Some platforms might seem super affordable until you realize they limit how much content you can store or how much traffic your site can handle.
So you hit that limit and bam, overage fees galore.
Exactly. It's like exceeding your data limit on your phone plan. You don't want to get slapped with a hefty bill.
So read the fine print, people.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Absolutely. Transparency is key. A good platform will be upfront about their pricing and happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, so we've covered the foundations, understanding our business needs, tackling the SEO beast, and navigating the financial maze. But let's be honest, the fun part is making it look good, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Aesthetics matter. Your website is your online storefront, so it needs to be just as inviting and well-designed as its physical counterpart.
Because first impressions are everything. Imagine walking into a store that's cluttered, dimly lit.
Clothes strewn everywhere.
Exactly. You'd probably turn around and walk right out.
Absolutely. You want people to walk into your online store and feel immediately drawn in.
And there's something to be said for websites that just feel good to use. You know, you land on the homepage and you instantly know where to click, what to do. The colors are easy on the eyes. It's like there's a whole science to it.
There really is. It's called the psychology of design, and this guide delves into it, which I found fascinating. It explores how certain design elements can subconsciously influence how people behave online.
Okay, spill the design psychology secrets. I'm all ears.
Well, for example, did you know that certain colors evoke specific emotions? Blue, for instance, often conveys trust and reliability. That's why you see a lot of banks and tech companies using blue in their branding.
Interesting. So if I'm launching a new fintech startup, I should deck out my website in various shades of blue.
It couldn't hurt. Green is another interesting one. It's often associated with tranquility, growth, nature. So you see a lot with health and wellness brands, sustainable living companies, that sort of thing.
Okay, so blue for trust, green for tranquility. What about red?
Red is all about excitement, urgency, passion. You'll often see it used for those limited time offers, flash sales, things that create a sense of urgency.
So strategically placed pops of red could be the key to boosting those impulse buys.
Exactly. It's about understanding how these subtle design cues can influence user behavior.
I'm starting to see how much goes into this. It's not just about making it look pretty.
Not at all. It's about creating a seamless and enjoyable user experience that guides visitors towards their goals, and hopefully those goals align with your business objectives.
Right. Subtle design nudges, love it. Okay, but before we get too carried away with color palettes and fancy fonts, we've got to reel it back to the practicalities, especially for us Aussies.
Yes, the legal side of things. We can't forget about that.
Because building a successful website isn't just about aesthetics and user experience. It's also about establishing trust with your audience, which means being upfront and honest about how you collect and use their data, making sure your site is accessible to everyone.
And complying with all the relevant Australian laws and regulations.
Which is where this guide section on Australian compliance comes in handy.
Yeah.
They cover everything from privacy laws to accessibility guidelines to making sure your business licenses are clearly displayed. It can seem a bit tedious, especially when you're eager to get your website up and running, but Trust me, it's important.
It really is.
Think of it like building a house. Sure, you could cut corners on safety regulations to save time and money, but that would be incredibly risky for both you and anyone who steps foot inside.
Exactly. Compliance isn't just about avoiding legal trouble. It's about creating a safe and trustworthy online environment for everyone.
Safety first, whether it's a physical building or your online space. Okay, so we've got our design hats on, we're abiding by the law. What happens when everything's ready to go live?
It's time to hit that publish button. It's launch day.
Confetti cannons at the ready. Launching a website is a huge accomplishment, and it's natural to want to celebrate that milestone. But as the guide emphasizes, it's important to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Couldn't agree more.
So no resting on our laurels just yet. What does the guide recommend for keeping that website fresh and thriving once it's out in the world?
It all comes down to maintenance. And the guide uses a fantastic analogy. It compares your website to a garden.
Ooh, I like this analogy.
You wouldn't just plant some seeds and expect them to flourish without any TLC, right? A website needs that same care and attention.
So how do we translate that to the digital world? What does it actually mean to tend to a website?
Just like a garden needs regular watering, weeding, and the occasional dose of fertilizer, your website thrives on updates, fresh content, and a watchful eye for any broken links or outdated information.
It's like giving your website a regular health checkup.
Exactly. And that's where analytics come in, which the guide emphasizes heavily.
Those like website traffic reports, right?
Exactly. Tools like Google Analytics give you a behind-the-scenes peek at how people are interacting with your site, where are your visitors coming from, what pages are they spending the most time on, are there any pages where they're bouncing right off?
So it's like you become a digital detective, analyzing clues to understand user behavior and fine-tune your website accordingly.
Precisely. These insights are like gold when it comes to making informed decisions about future content, design tweaks, even your overall marketing strategy.
We've covered so much ground today. From those essential first steps of understanding your business needs and mastering SEO, to navigating the financial side of things, adding those design flourishes, and even getting our heads around Australian compliance, it's been quite a journey.
It has, and it all leads up to that exciting launch day. But, as we've established, the journey doesn't end there.
Maintaining a successful website is an ongoing process, just like tending to a garden or really running any aspect of your business.
Absolutely. It's about being adaptable, staying curious, and never being afraid to experiment.
Which leads us to a question for you, our amazing listeners. With all this knowledge at your fingertips, what's one actionable step you're inspired to take? Is it diving headfirst into keyword research? Maybe sprucing up your website's design with a strategic splash of color? Or perhaps it's finally taking the plunge and hitting that publish button.
Whatever it is, remember, the most important step is the first one. Don't let the vastness of the online world intimidate you. Break down the process into smaller, manageable steps, just like we've done today, and celebrate those wins, big or small.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, if you ever want to share your website wins or even those head-scratching moments, you know where to find us. Maybe we'll even feature your story in a future deep dive.
Now that would be something.
Until then, happy website building, everyone. Is it diving headfirst into keyword research? Maybe sprucing up your website's design with a strategic splash of color.
Or maybe it's finally taking the plunge and hitting that publish button.
Whatever it is, we're here to cheer you on. Remember, the online world can feel like a wild jungle, but you've got this.
You totally do. And remember what we said about those small, consistent steps.
Exactly. One step at a time, and you'll have that amazing online presence up and running in no time.
Absolutely. And hey, once you do, be sure to let us know. We'd love to hear about your website building adventures.
Yes, come tell us all about it. We might even feature you in a future deep dive.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Until then, happy website building, everyone. And remember, the internet's a big place, but there's room for all of us to shine online. We'll catch you in the next deep dive.